Hello and welcome to the Earache podcast episode 1. This is just a bit of a tester, really. Going to try and get different people on, different guests, different artists, different interesting people from the music industry, and just have a bit of a chat, really, see where it goes. So if you like it, make sure you subscribe to the Earache YouTube channel and leave a comment below. If you don't like it, watch something else, there's plenty of other things to watch, isn't there? So no need to leave any nasty comments. First episode is with Dawson. You might know him from the Earache Instagram. If you're not following us on Instagram, get over there. Al does daily stories answering questions from fans. He's worked at Earache for over 30 years. He's our USA label manager, so we had a bit of a chat just to see how things are going, really. So hope you enjoy it. See you later. Bye. Three, two, one. Yeah, should be recording now.
Boom.
So, Al, loads of people are going to know you already, obviously, from the Instagram daily stories. But I thought this could be a good chance to just have a chat and a bit more of a longer form.
Yeah, man.
To try and, there's obviously been loads of great stories. How long have you worked at Earache now?
Man, I actually knew Dig before he started Earache. I was a punk rocker living in Australia, the most isolated capital city in the world, and I decided to come to England to meet all my pen friends. This is 1986, and I went all around the country staying. I think the first place I stayed was Upton Park in the East End, Liverpool, Manchester, all that. And I ended up staying in Nottingham at the drummer from Concrete Socks' house, or his apartment.
How old were you when you first moved?
What?
How old were you when you first moved to?
No, this was a vacation or a fact-finding mission or whatever. But that was maybe like 19, 20, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I stayed in Nottingham in the Victoria Centre Flats, which is above the big shopping centre. That's still there, the Vicky Centre and all that?
Still there, yeah. Got some mates who live in there, yeah.
Yeah. It can be quite a party place at times.
It's a good little secret thing about that, but I quite like getting on like rooftops in cities, and real one you can actually, I don't know if I should say this publicly, but you can go because the lift comes down into the shopping centre, doesn't it? So you follow someone into the lift who lives there, buzz in, you can go up into the tower block and then you can get up onto the roof.
Yeah, no, that's very much a New York thing as well, rooftop parties and stuff like that, due to the lack of space and open air that you have in New York,
Yeah.
But yes, I came out and I was staying with the drummer from Concrete Socks because I had mutual friends with other people. And he says, well, you can stay a week because we got people from Italy coming and people from Japan just left and all this sort of thing. But if you want to stay longer, you stay with our mate Dig. And I knew Dig from, he used to write a column in Maximum Rock and Roll back in the day, this punk magazine.
Yeah.
So I knew of him from that, and we ended up getting on. I think I ended up staying a month with him. Went back to Australia and thought, well, I need to move to England. It's too isolated where I am, sort of thing. I mean, it's ironic now because bands like Morbid Angel, Bolt Thrower, even bands like Crass and the Exploited and stuff like that, which growing up you would think they're never ever going to come to my hometown, but all of those have managed to play there since I left. God knows how that works financially, but people make it work or whatever. So it used to be like, even Michael Jackson, the biggest pop star in the world at the time, he would come to Australia and just do the East Coast and bugger off because it wasn't worth shipping all the gear over for the amount of people who turn up to the shows type of thing. It just didn't make financial sense. So even Michael Jackson couldn't make it work. Whereas somewhere in the 90s, promoters somehow made it work. Whether it's a tax write-off or what, I don't know. That's their business. But so I knew I needed to move to the UK. I found London back in '86 way too big and way too intimidating. So I wanted somewhere smaller than London, but near enough to get to London if there was a killer gig on or whatever. And to me, Nottingham checked all the boxes. So 1986, and Dig was telling me at the time he's going to start a record label, and I was like, wow, that's pretty adventurous, whatever. Because at that point, record label was EMI or someone. You know what I'm saying?
So did you come over with the idea of I want to get a job, or you just came over because you
I
liked it?
just came over because I was a big fan of the music,
Yeah,
and all my favorite bands were either American or English. And if I moved to the US at that point in time, you'd probably have 6 months and have to find a girl and do that whole green card scam thing. Like, yes, we're in a loving relationship. What's your favorite toothpaste or whatever? You know what I mean? That type of thing. Like the fake marriage to get the green card. But my mother's Scottish. So I had the right to come here and when I first came to England in '86, I walked through the gate is the residence gate. He's like, "Welcome home, sir." I'm like, "Huh? I've never been here before. This is great." Whereas my mate, who had the Australian passport, he's like, "How long are you here for? How much money you got? Where you staying? What hotels? Give me the names." And
yeah,
he got the third degree type of thing, you know?
yeah. No, it's funny how many people who end up working in music didn't really necessarily plan it. They were just sort of part of it, and then a job came up.
Yeah, I mean, the way I look at it, like my flat in Perth was in the downtown or whatever, in the center of the city, and everyone would drop by, and I'd be like, "Fucking hell, I just got this new tape from Brazil," or "Check out this fucking hardcore band from Finland," or whatever. And basically, I was sharing my excitement of music that I thought was good with people who loved the music but didn't have the connections, the
Yeah.
worldwide connections that I had. So I was basically kind of doing the job before I realized that was a job that you could be done type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I was talking to Mike before, and we were sort of coming up with things that, like, what advice would you give to people who want to get a job in music? And
Yeah,
sort of, we just both chatted about how it happened for us. But I think the common thing that it is you basically just got to put yourself inside of a scene, and like
yeah,
the job will come second, kind of thing. You got to be
definitely.
almost
But
like,
there was, I mean, back when I mean, I guess this is before the internet, whatever, but people would, it'd be street teams where you'd send a kid in Kansas and the kid in Nebraska and whatever, a stack of flyers, like new Haunted album coming. And they would go to the gigs and hand out all these flyers and stuff. And people who are like, all right, well, I've actually got four mates who they'll cover every metal gig that's going on Friday night in my town or whatever. And start having the sense to build it into something. Those people ended up running like professional promo teams, and do you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Again, it came from the organic enthusiasm. Someone once told me you can't put a price on enthusiasm.
yeah,
I can say I'll give you $1 million a year, but you're going to be really gung ho about Napalm Death or whatever. Like, nah, I don't know, yeah, whatever. You're either into it or you're not, and
I
that's
think
it. That's all it is.
the thing with this kind of job as well, isn't it? Like, it wouldn't work if you weren't into the music or the bands.
Yeah,
Just, it's obvious when you can spot people who, just aren't into it, and it doesn't work
yeah,
to have a like big passion
indeed,
to work.
indeed. So yeah, so what was the question?
Uh, I can't remember. I don't know if there was one, but yeah,
Yeah.
you were just saying you'd moved to the UK, and did you say you were living with Dig for a month?
No, well, I went to the UK to visit all my pen pals in '86, and I ended up staying with Dig for a month then. And then I moved back to Australia and took every shit job I could to save up money to move back. But at that point, I just knew that I either had to be in America or I had to be in England. I mean, I also felt too, I mean, one of the great things about Nottingham was Nottingham Rock City. And pretty much every band that I missed out seeing as a kid, I ended up seeing at Rock City.
Yeah, it's a
You know what I'm
famous.
saying? Like Rudimentary Peni, GBH, fucking 999, Sham 69, all these types of bands. Oh shit, even the first time I ever saw Ozzy, he was playing a secret gig at Rock City before Donington the next night. For those of you who don't know, Donington, which is, download now, I guess, it's about, 17, 18 miles from Nottingham City Centre. So a lot of bands over the years that were due to headline would come in and play a warm-up show or a secret show the night before their headlining gig at Download in front of 100,000 people or whatever it was.
Yeah, no, Rock City is a big part of the reason why I ended up in Nottingham as well, because obviously
Right.
after school you're sort of choosing, I need to get out of the town where I'm from, I need to go to another city, where shall I go? And I sort of visited a few, and there's something about Nottingham when you get here, it's just like, it feels like a music city. It's
Yes. Yeah.
music.
I mean, it's also too, like, like a lot of American bands, if you're on a tight schedule and you can only play a couple of shows in the UK, you'd maybe often do London, Birmingham, and maybe Glasgow or something like that, like free spots. but Nottingham definitely was spoiled. I mean, I saw Nirvana play there. I saw Oasis, one of Oasis's first Nottingham shows was there. Like, you see so many good shows at Rock City.
Yeah, the list of artists that have played there is like, you name it.
Yeah.
They're basically just before they exploded as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think I must have been there, 3 to 4 times a week, every week for 10 years type of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's insane. Yeah, it's hard now, obviously, isn't it? No.
Yeah. Well, I was saying to you a month or two back, is like, I've seen 3 to 4 shows a week, every week for 40 years. So now I'm like, what's going on? It's like taking a fish out of water type of thing,
Yeah, well, this is one of the reasons why I wanted to start doing these kind of like podcast style things, is just to basically interact with other humans.
Yeah.
Like we used to. Because
yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't really talk to anyone except like you guys at work, and then my girlfriend Steph at home. But that's it. I've got speak to the family every now and again. But
I'll text memes to all my mates, but that's like, it's not even talking. It's like, here's a fucking ridiculous meme. Here's another meme, but that's about it. You know what I mean? It's not like, hello, how are you? I am fine. How are you? It's not like that at all.
Yeah. You love a meme, don't you?
Oh yeah.
Meme king.
Yeah. Nothing but a good meme.
I was going to ask, when you first started at Earache, that was you were just doing like picking and packing, right? That was how it started out.
Yeah, I guess, yes. I mean, I think I spent half my time in room 19, the mail order room, and the other half like learning the ropes of production stuff and stuff like that. And then shortly after that, Johnny Barry left. He was doing production. He left. He was also he was a booking agent on the side, and I guess his booking agency was picking up. So he left to do that, and I stepped into the role of product manager.
Yeah.
That was probably 6 months into being there type of thing. Johnny used to do all the layouts himself, and this is pre-desktop publishing. So it'd literally be X-Acto knife cutting out and gluing on shit and stuff like that. And then right when I came in, luckily for me, everything became desktop publishing. So it used to be if you remember floppy disks from the 80s or whatever, it used to be called a SyQuest drive, and it was like a big plastic drive, but that was what you needed for all the art files. So we went from taking giant cardboard folders with glued, like this is the front cover, like Massacre logo. Oh, it's a bit, better straighten it up, because they'd have to, I guess they'd shoot it with a high-res camera and develop separations from there for the films.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden 1991 desktop printing came in, or desktop publishing, where you could do it all on the computer. So we just hire third-party graphic designers to do all the layouts, sort of thing.
Yeah. So you must have overseen a lot of the those now classic early releases.
Well, right? I came in around. I know the day that I moved to Nottingham, Dig and Martin were working on the Grind Crusher, because I literally got there. He goes, right, we'll go to the art shop, and they were buying stuff, or they were stretching the grind tank. They were stretching the image to fit the artwork. So that's the day I arrived. But I remember the first record I was thanked on was War Master, but I didn't start working on that one, but that was definitely one of the first ones that I had my hands on, as far as overseeing everything else on it, whatever. You know what I mean?
What mosh number's that? Can you remember?
I used to remember all the mosh numbers.
It's early though, isn't it? It's like
20s or 30s, I think, from memory.
Yeah. So it must have been quite a mad time, where you've come from Australia to live in a completely new country. Then you sort of, I guess you could say, thrown in at the deep end a little bit, overlooking the production of all these records.
I feel like I remember a mate of mine joined the Marines, and they said, for anyone, like, you come from a farm or whatever, like from, Kansas, maybe you've seen a lake or a swimming pool, but you've never seen the ocean.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to swim. It's not automatic. And they said what they used to do is just throw people in the deep end of the pool. I can swim, sort of thing, like throw you in the deep end. I feel like at least everybody in the 90s who joined Earache was thrown in the deep end. In fact, the day I started, they were all going to America for a new music seminar, or CMJ seminar. They're like, right, there's the key, there's the alarm. Oh, see you, mate. I'm like, you what?
Yeah.
Oh, that's there you go. So they all left. They just left me in charge and took off to America for a week. So I'm like, fuck, now what? Cathedral, Forest Equilibrium. They're going in the studios to start working on that. And they turned up at the studio, no deposit had been paid. And I had to sort of madly call Dig in New York and call them back. And yeah, so that was when I guess I started type of thing around then.
Yeah. So this was at a time where obviously Earache was still a relatively new label.
Well, I was like I think I was the third or fourth employee or something like that.
Yeah. So it must have been pretty cool to see, I guess at that point, Earache had already made a bit of a name for itself, but not, you know, how many we've done like 600 releases now at that point.
Yeah.
It's been like 20 what, so.
But I mean, I would say though that, I mean, it was great, but I would say too that there was I don't even know if I'd say organized chaos, maybe like disorganized chaos. I remember Dig sending Martin to Japan to oversee Napalm Death and make sure that they didn't break up. And then they ended up breaking up anyway.
Yeah.
Which was not the point. And you could say like, well, this is like, you know, the legendary Napalm Death have broken up. Fuck, it's over, you know. Yeah. But we, you know, what do you say? Hindsight's 2020. What no one could perceive is that Lee would go on and do Cathedral, and Bill would go on and do Carcass, and Carcass would get, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, actually, kind of looking back, it could have been turned out as a good thing, right? Because you got all this.
Yeah, and then you know, and it's even like Nick Bullen and Mick Harris did Scorn, and then Justin did Godflesh. Well, Justin, when I moved over, Justin was already doing Godflesh. But you know what I mean? It was all that, but no one could foresee that it would go on in such a way, because I mean, even Napalm Death, really, you could say this is just noise, and there's no way that, you know, you have to be very proficient at your instrument to have a 35-year career or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So no one could foresee it going on that long, you know. In fact, I think some of their contracts were such a way that if you make it to album 8, you get this much money, because people are like, as if that will ever happen. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just, no one had a long-term game plan, that's for sure.
No, I mean, if you'd said back then that in 30 years' time, Napalm will still be touring and, you know, playing major festivals and releasing albums, I guess no one was really looking that far in the future, were they? But
no, even Morbid. I remember the discussions for Entangled in Chaos, the live record we did, you know, the A, B, C, D, E. They were like, right, we want to record them. And the reason we want to record them now is everybody's getting old. I mean, this is 95, 96 perhaps, whatever it was. Everyone's getting old, and there's no way they can continue to play at that level of ferocity or, you know, professionalism, whatever. So we need to document it now so that it'll be a historical document of the time. And yet here they are still doing it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's insane. Well, they've recently, there's 2 Morbid Angels now, isn't there? Is that right?
Yeah, well, there's I Am Morbid, David's Morbid Angel, and then there's Trey's Morbid.
Yeah, it's a shame when that happens, isn't it? It's like the same case with Entombed at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah. But that I always say is, you know, like, I think David's a lovely person. I think Trey's a lovely person, but I haven't had to live in each other's back pocket for 30 years.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like when you're on a tour bus or in a van, I mean, at one point they used to tour in an RV, but it's like you're in someone's back pocket. You're like, fucking smokes that fucking vape again, I'm gonna fucking strangle him. You know what I mean? Like the slightest thing can trigger you off. So after 30 years, people go their own ways or whatever, you know?
Yeah, and I guess that's fair enough, isn't it? They've done enough albums together. Maybe things.
Well, I mean, I always joke, it's like NASA's spending billions of dollars in researching 6 blokes sitting in a tin can for 9 months to see the effects of long-term space travel. I'm like, just go talk to a band that's on the road. You know what I mean? I mean, I've seen guys throw down on the side of the highway because it's like, right, that's it. I cannot stand you 1 more minute. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, you know, it's tough.
I can see that, yeah. Like, just, you know, when you're scrimping on the cost as well. So, you know, right, you don't get a hotel tonight, lads. We're all sleeping on the floor. They're just like, you know, using drum as a pillow or whatever. I can imagine that.
No, the Berserker, when they used to tour America, they'd have 1 hotel room. That's all their budget would afford. And of course, the drummer would be like, I ain't sleeping in bed with you, Tom. Fuck off. So they'd pull the mattress and the box spring apart, so two would get that and two would get that, just so they're not like all snuggled into one bed together and whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? Like whatever it takes to get the tour done.
Yeah.
But I think too, when you're like day 150 into 250 day tour, and you're like, I gotta leave, I gotta get home, or you know what I'm saying? Like, because a lot of musicians outside of the wild rock and roll lifestyle, a lot of them are real homebodies. You know.
So did you go on? Obviously, you're working at the label, but that must have taken you out on tour quite a few times where you were.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen gigs fucking Germany, France, Holland.
Yeah.
Every corner of America. I mean, sometimes you'd be sipping a beer and you're like, I'm in Sacramento, California. Like, how did this happen? How did I end up here? And it's all because of music, you know?
Yeah, it's a nice way to travel, isn't it? Even if it's not the most luxurious.
That's another thing with the metal world. I mean, I know there's so many divisions and like, only listen to true cults, melodic Swedish death metal, and don't give me any of that Norwegian shit, whatever. But you go anywhere in the world and you got a metal shirt on, people are like, oh, you like Wormrot? I like Wormrot too, or whatever. There's definitely a sense of welcoming community no matter where you go. You know?
Yeah, I love that. Whenever you go on holiday anywhere to some other country and you see someone in like a Sabbath top or something, you just give them the nod, like
give them the nod. Yeah,
yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
So how long were you in the UK for then?
11 years all up in the end, and then Dig and Dan were like, "Do you want to go run America?" I started coming to America, I think, 1990. That was back when New York was still the Wild West. I mean, shit, New York's in a worse Wild West now than then.
Yeah.
But so I'd come through to New York all through the 90s and loved it. It felt like a duck to water or whatever. And in 2000, they like, what would you say about moving to America and running the US operation? And as an Australian, as I said earlier on about needing to leave Australia to be part of music, to get a chance to live and work in America is like, it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. You have to go for it type of thing. Yeah. There's actually a lot more Australians here now than there was 20 years ago.
Australians are everywhere though, aren't they?
Yeah, but especially, I mean, there used to be tradition that every Australian, you'd finish high school or college and you spend a year in London or whatever. That used to be the thing. Go back, see the motherland type of thing. But there never used to be this many in America. But I think it was under Bush's terms, he actually gave loads of work visas to Australians or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I remember even standing on the subway and someone's like, "All right, mate, could you tell us where?" I'm like, "Australian?" And like just it'd be like, "Wow, that's rare," type of thing,
Immediately.
But so in 2000 they offered me to come over and run the US operation. I was like, "Fuck yeah," and I've been here ever since.
So at that point, obviously Earache didn't have a US operation. But
No, they did. They had in the early 90s. We were with Combat Records, Relativity, distribution deal.
Yeah.
And then we had a standalone Earache office, which is basically one guy in his kitchen with a fax machine and a phone. And then when we did the licensing deal with Columbia Records, Sony, they helped front and fund a standalone US office. The idea almost being like a farm club, whereas if they bankroll us, we'll discover new bands that will become the new Metallica or the new Megadeth type of thing. Didn't quite work out that way, but it definitely helped get us set up and standing alone. So that was one of the reasons why Dig and I mean, we did so many trips to New York. At some point, it's like every 2 weeks we were back on the plane and back because we had to oversee the staff over here as well type of thing. No. And it was like every time you'd fly back, there'd be new members of staff because the turnover would be so high or whatever.
And that was a big swanky office right in Manhattan, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's called. It was on Houston and Lafayette. It was the Puck Building. It's a fancy. I mean, it wasn't like super swank, but it was a what do you call it? Like a heritage building type of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they for some reason they got this mega space. I don't know why, but they ended up sharing it with a publicity company. And the deal was, I think, that in exchange for half the rent, they would do all the publicity for Earache.
Yeah.
But at that point, a lot of them were kind of, "Ooh, death metal, hey, yuck." grindcore. Yeah, no, thank you. You know, they were like that type of thing. So I think in some ways they kind of took the piss a bit, where they would do the bare bones publicity and expect to get their share of the rent paid type of thing.
Yeah. Now, I remember you pointing out that office when I came over to New
Right,
York.
right. Good memory. Yeah.
We were in at some Irish bar, I think, before the Sabbath show. I
Right.
think it was.
Okay, no, that was no. That was the Midtown office, 38th Street. We got that in 1999. I'm talking about, I think, from 90 or 91 to 1998, 99. But 99, we got that one. That one was it was 4 blocks from MTV and 4 blocks from Fuse TV. Nice location. But when we moved there, the whole independent record industry was in Soho. Back where our office was, like TVT Records was there, Nine Inch Nails' label, Roadrunner was down there. They were like 5-minute walk. So when we moved there, we're like, fucking hell, man, this is like no man's land, no one's there. Yeah. And then within 6 months, Roadrunner had moved up to 20th Street, whatever they were. Spitfire ended up actually moving. Spitfire Records ended up moving in the same street as us and all that. But yeah, I moved over in 2000, and that was to the office I pointed out to you.
Yeah. Because it must be quite interesting from your point of view. Like, there's a certain generation of people, I guess I've fallen into it slightly, where it's like pre-internet and post-internet, and how that changes everything. Because obviously, when I was a kid, the internet wasn't, it was sort of just starting out. But ever since I've been working, the internet has been a thing. So it's just always been a tool that we use. And it's hard to imagine not using it, to be honest, and not having like mobile phones.
Well, like I said, when I started doing production, it had just switched over from cutting and pasting to desktop production, and we had a fax machine. The fax machine I think Dig threw one out the window every second week or whatever, but we had a fax machine. That was the lifeblood of everything. And trying to get the Japanese would send you a faxed proof of the artwork for Napalm Death, and you're like, well, there's a black blob there, and there's a kind of grayish black blob there. Yeah, approved. It was impossible to approve artwork and shit like that. So then after a while, we had one computer, I think the art guy had a computer with a dial-up modem, like 14.4 dial-up modem sort of thing, to send files. And that was that for a long time. But yeah, when I moved over in 2000, they had 4 computers all connected. I think each computer shared a modem line. So I'd be like, oh, right, send. Like, why isn't it sending? Oh, Tom, get off your line. I need to send this important email to Dig or whatever. So I was like, we can't go on like this. And within a week or two, they just started putting high-speed internet into that part of Midtown New York. I'm like, we have to get this. So we had a high-speed internet from the year 2000 onwards. And like you said, once you go in, you can't go back to dial-up or whatever,
Yeah, or just having it overall instead of not having it. It's hard to imagine. So I guess you turn up to work, there's no internet. You're on the phone and sending letters and stuff rather than...
It would be, I mean, at least all through the 90s in Nottingham, my days would be like 7 hours on the phone. Then you get on the typewriter, electric typewriter, type up a purchase order. We actually have pre-printed purchase orders. Yeah. Type it up and then fax it to a studio to confirm the booking. And then, of course, the accountant would write the check and post the deposit check to the studio or whatever. So that's how most of my time was just spent on the phone.
I guess in some ways, like, you can get a lot of stuff done quicker, can't you, when you're on the phone?
Yeah.
I think now.
I still to this day, I'll just, you pick up the phone, you ring people, and yeah, what's going on? I went on vacation. Oh yeah, by the way, I had this new artist. Do you want to sign him? Like, shit, that wasn't your intent for doing the call in the first place, but just by having conversations with people, they let out information that you can jump on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the internet's obviously got a lot of good things about it, but it's kind of, for as many good things, there are bad things as well. And I think people nowadays, like maybe my age or even younger, it's sort of like they're so used to just instant messaging or emailing that it's like getting on the phone is almost like, oh God, got to get on the phone. That's, that seems unnatural.
But even in the 1970s or whatever, I think there's something like 80% of people did not want to leave a voice message if you had an answer machine. Tom, can you call me? Like even back then, there was people who were afraid to do that.
Well, because it just
You know?
feels unnatural talking to a machine.
Yeah, yeah. Or it's like, shit, what if I say the wrong thing on the message? Oh my God, like that type of thing. So there's always a certain amount of people who are afraid to do that. Where, I'm an idiot. I'll just steam into anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, to be honest, I used to be a bit like that as well, like getting on the phone to strangers. It used to be a bit like, I'd rather just send them an email. But
Yeah.
especially even stuff like this, like getting on Zoom, like pre-pandemic, if you want to call it that way. Like I wouldn't really video call anyone, to be honest.
Right.
We'd call people and we'd email them, but a video call at work would be a bit like, oh God, why do they want?
I know a girl. I mean, call me sexist or generalizing, whatever. But most women I know love to speak on the phone.
Yeah.
And I know a girl who doesn't like to speak on the phone. I'm like, what the fuck? She's like, I can't tell the nuances of people's voices. I need to see them. So whenever I have to speak to her, you'd have to do the video call because she doesn't like just like, yeah, what's going on? Oh, right. Like you'd have to do the call. But other than that, most people, but as you said, pre-pandemic would not want to be on the video chat,
Yeah, exactly. And I think doing something like this, I don't know, it's good to just, like I said before, interact with other humans and see and stuff. Is kind of because we're not getting it anywhere else really at the moment.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, as much as I know a lot of misanthropic people and a lot of people that hate society or hate people, but end of the day, you still need people.
Yeah, well, that's it. I mean, I wouldn't count myself really as a massively sociable person. I can be quite antisocial, to be honest. I'm maybe a bit of a hermit. I was saying before, the only time I'd really leave the house,
gigs and football.
Yeah, is go to live music or football matches, and neither of those are happening now. So it's like, I'm actually kind of all right being at home. I'm missing football matches, but I am starting to feel the lack of human interaction, to be honest. When the lockdown first started, it sounds bad this, but I almost couldn't believe our luck. The fact that because I've been wanting to work from home for a while, just because the office environment can be quite distracting at times, and I think it's quite a sort of old-fashioned way to look at things. So it's like, right, you must start work at this time, you must end work.
Right. Well, I mean, the thing is, I always say about the jobs that you and I do is it's not a factory clock in, do your 8 hours and clock out. It's a lifestyle job. And I mean, I'll start my day like 6 a.m., 11:30 at night. You're still texting people or firing off emails or whatever. Yeah. You become the job. It's the lines are very blurred. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's it. And I think beforehand, when we were in the office, it's easier to sort of switch off. Right, I've left the office now, I'm going home.
Right.
But like you say, the job doesn't stop. So you get home and you're carrying on working, especially for us in the UK. We work with a lot of American artists. They're not out of bed until we've got home from work normally. So
yeah, I can't think who you're talking about, to be honest with you.
There's loads of them.
Something Max, perhaps?
Max Portnoy, yeah, we're looking at
you. Yeah, what up?
Yeah. No, but there's loads of artists like that. I mean, just the time zone thing. It's 8 hours difference to LA. So
yeah,
it's just you have to be available after 6 p.m. Otherwise, you're not.
Ever since because I always used to tell my staff you have to be in work at 10 on the dot, if not earlier. I'd always get in earlier, but you'd have to be in at 10 because the head office is in England, and you've only got a window from there to there to reach England to get decisions made or discuss ideas or whatever.
Yeah.
And ever since we started working with Rival Sons, my days just got longer and longer and longer because it'd be like 6:30 at night, like, shit, call out, we got to discuss the new tour or whatever. So it's 9:30 at night, like, what? Okay. And then you find yourself on the phone for an hour, 9:30 to 10:30 in New York or whatever, because they just, the last minute in the office in LA, they forgot to discuss something with you. So from that point on, my days just got longer and longer, even though we had West Coast artists long before that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Because, I mean, when this all first started happening in March, the lockdown thing, I mean, I remember, like I said, I was sort of couldn't believe our luck at the start.
Yeah.
Lewis calling us at the weekend, I think it was a Sunday night, and he goes, yeah, we're not going to go into work tomorrow, because obviously I think this was the week before the UK officially went into lockdown.
Right. That's right. Yeah.
Looking back, it was a great decision. We did it a week before we were actually told to. And obviously people are saying now, if the government had acted even just a week or 2 weeks quicker, it could have been a lot worse, a lot better, basically.
Right.
People died.
Yeah, I was surprised because I remember Lewis saying that. I'm like, well, that's London. I'm not going to be doing that. I'm going to keep coming to work. And then I went to my coffee shop to get coffee. You're right. New York's going to lockdown. I'm like, motherfucker. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's definitely a shock to the system.
Yeah, that at first was sort of, I mean, the main gut punch for me was obviously, we've got all these festival stages lined up.
I remember that.
2020 book lineups for all of them. Pretty good lineups as well, I thought, for the budgets we had. And suddenly it's just all gone, like a year's worth of work's down the toilet. And
that sucks.
But I sort of made peace with it, where it's like, right, okay, well, we haven't got these festivals, but at least I'm working from home and I'm quite enjoying it, because it was, spring was just starting, the sun was starting to come out.
Right.
We're all cracking on with our work, but we're able to do it sort of in our own homes, sit in the garden on the laptop,
Nice.
I found it just a lot less stressful. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's sort of a lot easier. But I remember saying at the time, I hope we get the whole summer off. That would be good, wouldn't it? The whole summer working from home.
But what's your predictions for the future, though? Right. I've kind of given up, but I mean, obviously, sooner or later this will be over.
Yeah.
Whether that's 2021 or 22, I don't know.
I think one of the hardest things about the whole thing for everyone is the fact that there isn't a time limit on this. It's like, if they said, right, say, I don't know, just June 1st, 2021, everything will be going back to normal.
Yeah.
Like, right, okay, so, right, we've got this many months. You could almost count down the days. You could prepare in your own head for it. But the fact that it's sort of like no one knows, or no one seems to know, it kind of makes things worse. I don't know, like before, just give us the whole summer working from home. That would be great.
Right.
We got the whole summer. We're now in September, October. Well, it's November next week. And now I'm starting to think like, fuck, are we ever going to go back to normal? I mean,
but to be fair though, I mean, I'm not a fucking doctor or whatever, but I remember near the very beginning of the shutdown, they said there will be a second wave. And I guess now France and Germany's going back into full lockdown or whatever.
Yeah.
So somewhere someone knew, get ready buckle up for round 2 type of thing,
Yeah, I think that's how these pandemics seem to work, isn't it? You have the first peak and then the second wave comes along. But
I think they based that on the Spanish flu in 1918, whatever. There was like round 1, then there was round 2 type of shit.
Do you get a round 3 or?
I don't know. I haven't researched that far into it. I
guess we'll find out.
Yeah, but you guys you're kind of back into lockdown now or something. Is that right?
Yeah. So over in the UK, like throughout the summer, one of the big criticisms of the government was that no one had a fucking clue what was going on.
Right.
You speak to anyone in the street, do you know what the rules are? People will be like, no, because they change them all the time. And then they'd come up with rules. And then there's a famous story, Dominic Cummings, who's like Prime Minister's senior advisor or whatever.
Right. The Malcolm Tucker.
Well, yeah. I mean, basically, they put all these rules in. So this was at the height of lockdown, like, don't leave your home unless you're exercising, going to the shops, no mixing with family, all this stuff. And then he basically drove up to Durham and stayed with his family or something, and then went to visit a place called Barnard Castle on his wife's birthday, and he was spotted doing all this, and so everyone's like, what the fuck, this is the guy coming up with the rules, and he's basically going bollocks to it. And I think one of the biggest mistakes that the government have made over here is they basically backed him after that. They were like, no, it's fine. He did this big press conference, and it was like,
do as I say, not as I do type of thing.
Yeah, well, it wasn't even that. It wasn't, he sort of brushed it off as I haven't broken any rules. His excuse was that he drove to this castle to test his eyesight or something, because and it's like, right, okay. But it was just such an obvious pile of bullshit. But they expect everyone to just sort of swallow it up and like, okay, you're just testing your eyes, fine then, carry on. But I think subconsciously or consciously, whatever, I think that seeped into a lot of people's mindsets, and it's like, well, if they're not obeying the rules, then why the fuck should we? And like, within a few weeks, you suddenly started seeing pictures in the press of like, Bournemouth Beach and Brighton Beach and all this.
Right. Yeah, I remember seeing that actually.
Thousands and thousands of people there, and you can't help but think that it's because of the way they've behaved that everyone else is doing the same thing. So
so strange. But was it you and I that was talking, saying that Live Nation was predicting there would be no big gigs until 2022? I think.
Yeah, that has. I mean, I've heard so many different things and predictions and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think the hardest thing is festivals can just about survive one summer off, but 2 summers, it's then you're going to start seeing loads of them just disappearing and going under, because fans are happy to like postpone their ticket to the next year, not get a refund, help the festival. But I think as soon as it starts becoming 2 years, 3 years,
Jesus.
it's just not going to work. So I don't know. Something's got to give, because it's like, it's a balance, isn't it? I guess like what's the greater evil? It sounds harsh, but obviously, no, anyone dying is a bad thing. But then, is it really worth completely, setting fire to the entire music industry, or not just the music industry? Travel industry, loads of.
Of course. Restaurants and pubs, all sorts of stuff,
But it's kind of an awkward conversation where you're weighing up people's lives and weighing up like, events and stuff. But at some point they've got to, it can't be the end, can it, of festival?
No. I mean, it's without a doubt, it's not the end, without a doubt. I mean, the way I was talking to an artist the other day, and I said, I see this almost like in America in the 1920s, prohibition, where alcohol was illegal. And of course, it was speakeasies, and if you really wanted booze, you could get it and all this sort of thing. But when it became legal again, it was like happy days are here again. Everybody's out fucking ripping it up harder than ever type of thing.
Yeah.
And in my mind, it's like, this will come back at some point. It will be back. And then people are going to be appreciating gigs even more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what keeps me hanging on, just thinking of that first time you run into another mosh pit, or you first walk into a venue, or, get into a festival, and it's like, people won't be taking it for granted at all, will they? It'll be like every moment.
Well, I was with a blogger, I think first week of March at a gig, and we were talking about the New York Summer Festival. Like, well, fucking, I have to be at Nassau Coliseum on the Tuesday, and then Wednesday I've got to be over here at this one, and then fucking, how am I going to do it? It's got because there's so many summer tours coming up.
Yeah.
Of course, 2 weeks later, all gone. Do you know what I mean? But my point was, I was almost like rolling my eyes that there were so many gigs coming up, and now it's like, give me a gig.
No, I know the feeling. Like, obviously, we love live music. That's why we do what we do. But every now and again, it can feel like a bit of a chore. Like, you want to go to the gig, you want to see the band, but sometimes it's like, oh God, it's freezing outside.
Especially in New York, it'd be like, you work all day, you come home, put your feet up, it's fucking bollock freezing cold outside. You're just getting toasty in your apartment, whatever. It's like, fuck, I got to get fucking dressed. I got to fucking walk up the freezing cold street, stand on an icicle cold platform, get on a subway. Okay, heated subway, nice and toasty again. Get off the subway, bollock freezing cold in Manhattan or Brooklyn, fucking peg it to the venue, and then you're in the gig with a massive coat, fucking sweating bollocks because, there's no coat check or whatever. And it's like, I want to, as you said, I want to see the show, but I don't want to go for all. And of course, you go do it, and you have the best night out ever. But all of that's just gone right now,
Yeah. No, you take it back, though, wouldn't you? Even standing in the gig, the endless problem of do I put a jacket on or not?
Right now, who cares? I'll take the sweat,
It's that time of year as well. I think what's going to be harder about this lockdown than the first one is like. Right. When it first happened, obviously it's new to everyone. It's like, wow, okay, shit's actually going off here. And I think everyone was a bit more willing to stick to the rules. And also, like I said before, the main thing was the sun was coming out. It was the start of spring. Stretched out in front of you. But over here in the UK, like, the clocks have just gone back. It's, what time are we on? It's about 4 or 5 in the afternoon. It's already getting dark outside.
Yeah, I can see it out your window there, actually.
It's freezing. I'm in this room. I've got like a jumper on and a hoodie on top of this. It's,
Damn.
it's just kind of all a bit more bleak. And
Yeah.
what would normally get you through that in normal times is like, right, well, I've got 2 free gigs this week, so they'll be my high points.
Yeah. Of course.
Now it's kind of like, what are the high points of my week? I mean, I don't actually know. I mean, like, how are you filling the days other than working?
I mean, honestly, I'm thankful for the work, man, because that just keeps me busy. Like, right, got to do this, got to do that. Talking to this band, shit, got to chase up so and so. That's without that, I'd fucking think I'd go around the bend or whatever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I'm finding I'm working more than ever just for something to do, which sounds sad, but it's like, there is nothing else to do other than walk the dog, maybe play a bit of PlayStation, listen to music. Right. Sort of.
But as far as Dig always says we're in the recorded music game. We're not in the live game. I mean, obviously we do the festivals or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think in many ways with us, like labels like Century Media used to slap out like 8 releases every 2 weeks, like bam, to stick it to the wall. Whereas we'd be like maybe 10 releases a year, 11 releases a year. Like we were more about the quality than the quantity type of approach. Yeah. But I see, or I feel at least, maybe I'm wrong, that we're actively signing more and more artists and putting, we're being much more productive now than we were.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean,
I have kids on Instagram telling me like, should I bother like submitting my music now? Or should I wait till the pandemic's over? I'm like, man, just fucking do it now. What are you doing?
Yeah, why would you wait? Yeah, I don't know. I think that's definitely a case since lockdowns happened. I would say that everyone at Earache is working harder than ever, or getting more done than they would normally do.
Yes, definitely. Hard to but what's the name? I remember when it first started, a lot of the majors were like, right, we're pushing our releases back because we don't want to have the release out without that artist going on tour. Well, we were just like, nope, business as usual, steam ahead. Yeah. And I think from memory with you, me, and Ashley discussing, originally digital consumption was down, and we figured that out was because people who would normally say stream Spotify or Apple Music on their hour-long commute on the bus or driving in their car were not listening because they weren't commuting. So that was down. But then we're seeing like YouTube numbers and Bandcamp and everything else were going up because people like, they're listening to it on their desktop at home as opposed to in their car or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, I think we've been quite lucky in some ways because, like you were saying, we're not really part of the live music industry. We're part of the recorded music industry. And pre-pandemic, we're sort of looking enviously at the live side of the industry going, wow, look at all this money that's being made. More and more people are spending money on live events, less and less people spending money on physical music. And, trying to get into the live music industry through the festival stages, through managing artists and stuff like that. And then now it's kind of like the whole live music industry, it's like, an atom bomb's gone off and there's like...
What is it, 95% of people at Live Nation lost their jobs or whatever?
Yeah, and it's so sad. And people who are obviously really successful, high-flying, working really hard, and then just suddenly, within a matter of weeks, everything you've been building up has disappeared. And we're kind of like this little rock sticking out of the ocean that's still somehow surviving. Because I think another part of it that's sort of just luck on our side really is that because people can't, if you have bands that you love and you want to support them, previously you'd go and support them by buying tickets to their live show. But it's not an option. So what do? You're like, right, well,
but you think of that whole process of going to a live show as like, gas up the car, drive to the venue, either buy tickets on the door, or you've already got tickets, then maybe you pick up a t-shirt, but you're going to spend $100 on beers or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's all these other things that you spend it on because the gas, driving to the venue, and the tickets and the beers are gone out of the equation. People are buying more t-shirts and buying more vinyl and stuff like that just to have something to spend their money on, whatever,
Exactly. So I do, every day that goes by, I do count us lucky that we're still, got a job, and there's so many people that, like you said, 95% of Live Nation or whatever.
I mean, it's also, how many mates have you got venues who are like on the process of losing their venues because they can't do live shows,
Yeah, it's horrible. I think I've read some really scary stuff about the UK, where it's like they're predicting like 90% of independent music venues are going to close. Loads of them have already. And, this was a problem before the pandemic where, people would just be buying them up to turn them into flats or whatever, because you can make
Right.
money that way. And now, it's scary to think like, Nottingham is a great music city. It's probably 20 different music venues I could name off the top of my head. How many is there going to be after this? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Here's the thing: if there was like this perfect cure, or like inject it and you're never going to get sick again, or whatever it turns out to be, new places will open. Do you know what I mean? And whether that's like a bunch of punk kids with a squat that they turn into a music room, or you know what I'm saying? But people will find a way to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
Let's look at like the rave culture of the UK in the late 80s, 86 to 89. Nightclubs at that point, if you weren't dressed up to the nines with a fucking bow tie and a fucking suit on or whatever, they wouldn't let you in. Didn't have the right shoes on, whatever. Like, dress code is super strict. So kids are like, fuck that, man. Just fucking do a rave in this, in this field. Do a rave in this fucking abandoned warehouse. And because people, they had to create that out of necessity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's what we're gonna see here. I mean, I reckon we'll see a lot more. Just if this carries on much longer and it's still like rules against having gigs, you'll just see more and more illegal ones.
Right.
Kind of free party style ones. And
yeah.
Tried to put people off doing that by, I think there's a like 10 grand fine now if you're caught hosting an event and stuff like that. But
I was actually thinking more, the pandemic's over and there's some semblance of normality.
Yeah.
Even if we lose 90% of venues, people are like, fuck it, I'm gonna fucking start my own and see what happens, type of thing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, hopefully that'll happen, and there won't just be all like Costa coffees and student and things like that. But
I'm sure a lot of them coffee houses, whatever, probably going belly up anyway.
Yeah, true. I mean, it's been, obviously we're quite lucky as at the record label that we've kept all our jobs and we've been able to keep going and stuff. But it has been a challenge, hasn't it? Because you got to do things differently. I mean, since March we had Massive Wagons was the first campaign basically that we did under lockdown. So I think we launched the pre-order as we went into lockdown with the first single. Then it came out in, when was it? Was it May release date, something like that?
Something like that, I think.
Yeah, and so the whole campaign was done under lockdown, and then bizarrely not bizarrely, but we got an amazing result out of it, despite the band never being able to play a gig the whole time. Managed to go in the charts, and then Tala has obviously been the same. Where I feel for a band like Tala because they're a new band. We signed them, debut album campaign. And I remember early on in the campaign, it's like, right, we need a photo. We need a photo of the band. Normal stuff, really. And it's like, well,
photographer refused to do it because I can't be close to anybody,
Yeah, exactly. Can't even get them in the same rooms together for a photo. So we had to wait for the laws to be restricted, to be lifted on that. Even the music video for the Silo, it's fair play to Max for being a skilled editor and director, but he managed to make a music video with all the band members being basically in their own bedrooms recording out that way. So I think
extreme conditions demand extreme responses.
Yeah, exactly.
People find a way.
Yeah, it's like that Jurassic Park.
And that's definitely something I've learned over 30 years of doing this. Is like I wouldn't say there's always a plan B, but there's always another way of doing it. Like I remember time and time again, Digger's like, right, I want this patch and it's got to be in this record and it's got to be in by next week. You're like, that's impossible. But you got to think, no, it's not impossible. How do we do it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's always some form of a workaround to make shit happen.
Yeah, and that's what sort of gives me hope, the whole people find a way. So, whatever happens, we will still have gigs, whether it be one way or another. That's the thing that kind of excites me with the whole virtual reality thing as well, because you said a year ago we'd be talking about virtual reality gigs. You'd be like, yeah, maybe in 2050 or something, but not
right.
2020. But I don't know. It's amazing how people at Shangri-La, they basically,
I love that.
I think Glastonbury was called off in, was it like April, possibly late April, something like that. And within a couple of months, they've replicated the whole thing, but in a 3D virtual world. And it's like, wow, humans are pretty cool actually. The way they can just sort of deal with shit and, you know, just refusal to give up on it. And it's like, no, we're going to do this, even if we have to do it from our own homes, but we're going to put on virtually
Amazing
headsets. Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff. I wanted to try and get the story out of you.
Uh-oh.
I can't remember the band, but the band where you get it was like someone got arrested in New York, wrongly arrested, and then banged up in prison.
Cerebral Bore.
Cerebral Bore, yeah. So tell me the story of Cerebral Bore.
Cerebral Bore, Scottish death metal band, Dutch female singer. Yeah. Just completed a US tour, and it was, I mean, most European bands, either the tour starts or ends in New York. Yeah. Actually, some bands, maybe if it's New York's in the middle of the tour, they always request a day off after New York because they want to party to 4 a.m. or whatever. So their tour just finished, and right around that time in Long Island, which is the county east of New York City, there was a guy hooked on Vicodins or Xanax, one of them prescription pills.
Yeah.
Drug addict, and he was robbing drugstores, chemists, pharmacies, whatever you call them in the UK and Europe, whatever. He was robbing them, and the difference is most junkies are like, give me the fucking drugs, man, and then they run off. Yeah. He was shooting people because he was obviously desperate and panicky or whatever. So he'd shot and killed a few people, like customers, workers, whatever. So Long Island police were on high alert for this guy. So anyway, they finished their tour. And they wanted to have a night out. And for some reason, I think I had an early meeting the next day. And I know drinking with Scottish people, you're not going to have an early meeting the next day. And it's game over. So there's a famous metal bar here called Duff's. And I know the owner, Jimmy Duff. And I said, listen, Cerebral Bore coming. Some of my staff are coming. Please take care of me. He's like, Al, I got you. Don't worry about it. You're covered. So Nick from my office and Ali Ma went with his wife, took them out, and Nick told me that maybe the bar bill was $100 at the end of the night, but he said at any other bar it would have been $1,000. So that's how much they drank, like shots, beers, liquor, shots, cocktails, whatever. And near the end of the night, Nick knew where it was heading, so he's like, "Oh, I've got to go, lads, bye," and he left. He got out of there, sort of thing. Yeah. So the bar closes 4 a.m. And they, Paul, the guitarist, is like, "Oh, come on, man, it's our fucking last night in the city. Let's go on an adventure." So Ali and his wife, instead of going, no, we got to go home. We got to get up early or whatever. They're like, okay. So they're walking around, and they walk from, where is that? Williamsburg up into Greenpoint. So it's 4 a.m., 5 a.m. walking around, and they wanted to get sandwiches. I mean, there are a lot of like late night bodegas or whatever that do like gourmet sandwiches. And it sounds crazy, but you eat one and it mops up all the booze in your stomach. So next day you wake up, good to go, sort of thing.
That's what I love about New York, is those little hot dog stands everywhere.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend one of those at 4 a.m. But anyway, so they're walking to try and find a sandwich place open. And there's I think it's a Dwayne Reed, which is like think Boots the chemist sort of thing, right? Yeah. And imagine you're like, what do you call it? The opening staff of the drugstore. Yeah. So there's the sliding those doors, and Paul sees them. He's like, pulls them open. He gets into the store, and he's just picking up things, like picking up random things and playing the fool. And they're all like outside laughing, like, haha, like, what a funny guy, you know, drunk, whatever. But what they didn't know was, the opening staff, they're in the back room like, oh my God, there's like a crazed man in the store. Is this the Long Island killer? So they're hitting the, whatever, the silent alarm or whatever. Yeah. They're hitting the silent alarm for the police to come, whatever. So Paul pulls the doors back. I mean, because they weren't closed completely, they were ajar. So someone was in there, maybe in the back room making a morning coffee or just getting setting up the cash registers, who knows. So they leave there and they carry on and they walk a couple more blocks and they find an all-night gourmet sandwich shop, and they're in there and they ordered the best sandwiches ever. And Ali said they're on a stoop, 2 doors down from the sandwich place, eating these great, like, oh, this is the best sandwich ever, chewing into their sandwich.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, 5, 6 police cars come out of nowhere. Like this. And Ali said this cop just runs up and just slaps this like $9 sandwich out of his hands and like face first on the concrete, cuffed, big SWAT team guys, leaning on them, cuffing them, everything. And I'm used to turning up in the office because, like I said, I like my hours are officially 10 a.m., but I always like to get there before 10 to get a jump on the day, to be ready to work when 10 a.m. comes. You're already ready.
Yeah.
So I'm used to walking in and then staff coming in like, oh God, I'm so fucking hungover, kill me or whatever. I'm used to that. Like, they traipse in at 10:30, just fucking, fucking dry mouth, fucking head killing them, whatever. So I'm working away. Everybody turns up, and there's no Ali. I'm like, all right. He obviously a big night last night. He'll probably traipse in at 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
And eventually his wife rings up, Suad, and I'm like, hello. I was like, how you doing? It's like, not very good actually. I'm like, okay, what's wrong? So, well, actually, I'm in jail. I'm like, yeah, sure you are. Yeah, haha, big joke. Pull the other one. I said, no, we're in jail. I'm like, what? What are you in jail for? So, oh, I can't talk now. I got to go, whatever. Like, what the fuck? So I'm thinking, like, like drunk and disorderly, or the drunk tank. You go, tell them you're drunk, they chuck you in jail. We sober up in the morning. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. Don't come back. Slapping the wrist and you're out the door. So I messaged Dig. I'm like, mate, fucking Ali and all that. They've been arrested. They're in the drunk tank. Yeah. Like, it's nothing serious. I'm sure within an hour they'll turn up at work, sort of thing, right? Because I still had Paul's bags next to my desk. Paul and Kyle, and as it happened, Som and Alan, the drummer, Som the singer, at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m., they're like, you know what? Like, I want to get some sleep. We got a flight back in the morning, back to Scotland or whatever, or back to Europe. They left for the hotel, so they weren't embroiled in all of this. So I messaged Digger, look, here's what's happened. They've been arrested. I'm sure it's just a drunk tank. They'll be out in a couple of hours. Nothing to worry about. No reply from Dig. An hour later, email comes through, and he's got screenshots, and it's like a felony tracker, or like you can track, like shit, my mate's been arrested. You can track what they've been charged with online. Yeah. And it's like felony charges. Because it's like, it's like you wouldn't walk into a bank and be like, ha ha ha, like play the fool, because they're like, oh, you're obviously trying to rob the bank. So doing stuff similar to that in a drugstore, because of the nature of drugs and the dangerousness and whatever else, dangerousness, is that even a word? But because of that, it's just as serious as playing the fool in the bank. Yeah. So they're all on felony charges of this, that, and the other. And like, holy shit. So next morning I get to work, still no sign of them. So I know the police station they called from, it's in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. So I call up and said, yeah, my friends are in there. And they said, well, I can see the holding cells from here. There's no one in there. They either got released last night or they got sent to the tombs in Brooklyn or whatever, which is like really, really, you don't want to be going there, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they got there and they were held there until a judge could see them. And basically it was
cells in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Like it's all like gangs, and if you're not part of, I think probably what saved them from getting a beating was the fact that they all clearly had foreign accents.
And Ali and Suad hadn't been in New York that long at that point, had they?
Maybe 6 months, 7 months.
Wow.
But you wouldn't wish going there on your worst enemies. It's not a pleasant place to go, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And basically, they were in a cell. Suad got separated. She had to go to the women's cells. They were in the men's cells, but it was like 3 of them and 40 gang members in a cell. And people were like, what the fuck, you want to fight? Like, no, we're Scottish. Oh, okay, Scottish. Yeah, all right, that's cool. But, basically it was like, none of them, I think they literally did have the sneaker to sleep on, as you were saying. But it was like, right, let me get an hour's sleep, but you keep guard so they didn't get raped or fucking bashed or whatever. But it was bad, really bad.
Yeah.
And of course, the day after they got let out, he had to go home. Ali had to go home and shower and get a good night's sleep. So he'd basically been awake for 48 hours or whatever. So hugely traumatic experience. And I think that they were out on bail, and because of that, Paul and Kyle, yeah, because Som and Alan had gone back. They had to use their tickets. They had to leave. They'd gone back home.
Right.
But
Left them.
because they had to stick around to appear in court,
Yeah.
they ended up sleeping like Central Park for like a week or something.
Wow. So it actually went as far as like a proper court date and everything.
Yeah.
And they eventually, obviously,
They got, because actually what happened is, in between being let out in bail and attending court, they'd actually caught the drugstore killer. So the panic and the fear of the store, drugstores and all that had died down. So it's like, oh, obviously you're drunk playing the fool. I mean, the sucky thing for Ali and Suad is they didn't even go in the store. They're just going, ha, 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 like watching Paul through the window. But because it's your mates, you go down with them, sort of thing,
Yeah. Wow.
Hugely traumatic for everybody involved.
Okay, that's it for episode 1 of the Earache podcast. Just testing this out, really, see how it goes. So if you liked it, make sure you say so in the comments. But make sure you subscribe to the channel. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.